So let's go for the last part. Sorry, I'm rushing again. Our gender equality plan will conclude at some point, okay? But however, as we already said, okay, this is not the final station. This is not the end towards promoting gender equality. If we have done things somewhat right, we shouldn't be at the same point as we were saying, okay? So from here, we need to ask ourselves, what comes next? Remember what we said about structural change and the cycle approach? The jet might be over, but the change process is still ongoing and should be sustained, okay? A new cycle should start here. Then there is no linear path. So at this point, we look not only forward, but we also look to the road behind us, and we need to look where the backsliding and the regressions occur to extract some lessons learned, okay? Then the gender equality structures remain as a tool to maintain the momentum for change and identify new problems or any new areas of attention that might have been identified, okay? Then we need to look at the final evaluation with a baseline report, okay? We involve all stakeholders in its interpretation, and we can benchmark here again, inside and outside the institution, in fact, again, to gain some knowledge and some ideas. And then from here, we should ask ourselves, is a transition phase needed? Because in some cases, these transition phases are needed, like, for example, if the teams still continue to cooperate, or if they are still delivering some actions, or if they need to gradually reduce their efforts as some other actors take over, things like this, okay? So think about these transition phases. And it is likely that some measures will be, of course, already ensured, but others might need like several attempts to finally get to a solution, or might require different or further actions. So think about that. The key aspects, and then we finish. Sorry, it's only 5 minutes left. Okay. We need to strive for sustainability, okay? And this way towards sustainability starts at the very beginning. So all these main drivers and the key aspects are all of those that we have been mentioning throughout the whole process. So let's go through them a little bit quickly, because you should already know them. First, you need to manage your efforts and your energy, and this includes taking care of your own activism, which we will see now. You need to work with your eyes first and build from there since the very beginning, and this is going to be key for sustainability, okay? You need to identify potential windows of opportunities, both at organizational and domestic level, and we need to embed planned actions into the standard and the general frameworks and procedures of the institution for the sake of sustainability. Then we need to be flexible, as we said, and resilient. This is important. And we need to remember the importance of context specificity. Remember that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Then we need to make change visible and do it through a positive narrative, okay? Remember that. We need to build on existing resources. This will also be key for sustainability, of course. And we need to bridge top-down and bottom-up approaches and actions. As you already mentioned few of these key aspects for implementation, and you already mentioned them. We have already mentioned them since the very beginning. So sustainability is nothing that we think of when we finished and we say, okay, what's next? We need to keep doing that question since the very beginning, okay? And I wanted to end up with a reflection, because a structural change process, in the end, is about changing rules. And even if it seems for us the most sensible things to do, of course it will, who says that changing rules was easy, okay? It was never an easy task. So the thing is that how do we do that? And what does it mean exactly to do it in a sustainable way, okay? So I wanted to bring this quote from Jane Barry and Jelena Djordjevic. I don't know if it's pronounced like that. And they said that sustainability for some people can be even a useless word, okay? Because it's too vague, but it makes sense for others. So we need to give it sense for everyone, okay? We need to make it meaningful for us. So they define, I give you here the quote, they define sustainability as being able to do the work you love and still feeling full and happy in every part of your life, feeling safe, recognized, respected, and valued, okay? So the thing is that we normally only think about the sustainability of the process and the sustainability of the actions. But any process and any action is designed and it's performed and it's implemented by people. And it's people who is going to be facing resistances, and it's people that it's not provided with the tools to manage them. And it can be exhausting work. And it can be really tiring and exhausting to defend something in which you believe, but part of the organization and of the organizational culture is still resistant to move forward. So this is going to be a tiring process. So we need to think about the sustainability of our activism, okay? So the last thing I wanted to say is you need to just take care of yourself and take a deep breath before starting. Please look for your allies, look for them, and go ahead and good luck with your gender equality plans. You have some useful resources, of course, again today.